Hey, my handsome ladies and gentlemen, this is Shmeaty. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new. Shadow Talonflame was recently released in the Team Go Rocket Takeover event that also introduced Shadow Giratina, and there was a lot more interest in Shadow Talonflame than there was in Shadow Charjabug. So we'll get to Shadow Charjabug a little later in the season, but for right now, we're going to be taking a look at Shadow Talonflame, and let me just tell you, this Pokemon is absolutely no joke. I'm sure you didn't need me to tell you that, but let's just get into game number 1. Tough opponent, and we are going to have a tough lead. It's going to be Forretress leading into Shadow Annihilape. Not the best lead, as we are having our Bug Breaths double resisted. I'm going to get hit with a Rage Fist here, and I know I can survive one very comfortably, and future ones would obviously do more damage. So I am just going to build up to a potential Earthquake and fire off a Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb onto the Annihilape should grab a shield, and now I'm just going to get fully countered down, but now it's time to bring in Talonflame, and in comes Diggersby. Diggersby, if they are not ready for this Brave Bird, it is going to do quite a lot of damage. They're going to first fire off a Fire Punch bait, so I'm going to fire off one further Incinerate, then bank all that energy, bring in the Furret, as if you're bringing in a Diggersby, which has strictly resisted moves, into a Shadow Talonflame up energy, I would imagine the Shadow Talonflame probably has a little bit more play later on, and you're trying to neutralize it with the Diggersby. Nevertheless, Furret going to go for the Trailblaze. Trailblaze lands onto the Diggersby, not quite enough to KO, as Diggersby is immensely bulky, but they are going to now fire off a move, and this will not KO the Furret either. We are going to leave with just a little bit of energy, but they bring in Degenerate. Why Degenerate? Oh no, the Swift is going to connect. That's going to do a sizable amount of damage, and now Degenerate is going to have a hard time coming back from this, as we're going to be able to fire off a fly at the Degenerate. Degenerate no shielded, and they are going to fire off a problematic charge. I'm going to shield this move up, of course I am, and now Degenerate gets KO'd by the Incinerate that snuck. Shadow Talonflame doesn't care about your defense boost. They're bringing back in the Annihilape, and here I have to make a play. They know I have the back-to-back flies, but I'm under-tapping here after waiting a turn to make sure that the Annihilape was still on the screen, but the game didn't update. But that doesn't matter. They stood in. I'm firing a further Incinerate. In comes Diggersby, gets incinerated down. The opponent top lefts the match. Not the best lead for us in the next game either, as it's Forretress up against a Shadow Pidgeot, but I kind of have to stay here, I would imagine. I'm going to go ahead and no-shield this first move, as they only threw on 3. We know this can only be an Air Cutter, so I am very happy to no-shield that, as they also don't even get the boost. I am going for the most degenerate bait of my career, at least debatably so. They shield up the Sand Tomb, and now they're bringing in Shadow Annihilape, but Shadow Annihilape's not going to have a fun time because there's a Talonflame in its future. I was trying to hope that they would throw an alignment. They did not. So that's perfectly fine. We just shield up the Rage Fist, and now, can I fully Incinerate down? I don't believe so, but will this Flame Charge allow me to get one further Incinerate? They no-shielded, and it still KOs. Unfortunate for me, but the Pidgeot isn't really safe to come in here, because they are going to take a massive amount of damage from these boosted Incinerates. They are going to fire off the Air Cutter. I'm going to fire off another Incinerate here, and now, oh, I fire off 2 more Incinerates, and farm down the Pidgeot. In comes Diggersby. Diggersby can potentiate a farm down here, but we have a fly. Fly number 1 grabs the shield, and I don't think I was quite yet at fly number 2, but here comes some more degenerate Sand Tombing by your boy Shmeaty, going for the Sand Tomb. In comes Furret, and we have Trailblazers to throw at the now debuff defense of this Diggersby. They're going to go for the Scorching Sands because it's their most efficient charge move, and they need debuffs on the Furret, but they're not getting debuffs on the Furret. Furret going for a Swift here. I think I'm recognizing that with the debuff in their defense, I may be able to go for the double Swift to knock out. They are going to be able to fire off a Scorching Sands, but as we saw, this isn't going to be enough to KO. If they get the debuff here, unfortunately, it is Piggyback CMP. I don't believe the Diggersby wins that CMP, but nevertheless, we can just bring in the Forretress, get the Bug Bite down. GG's to this trainer. Not too bad. Forretress up against Tentacruel. It's actually where I would prefer it, especially with them being on the fast move of Acid. They have slower pacing than if they were on Poison Sting. They are still going to be able to outpace me to my Sand Tomb, however, that is not the biggest deal. They're going to go for the Scold. That doesn't do a whole lot of damage, and I can bluff an Earthquake here. They're going to try to bring in their Cradily, and they're save switching Acid Cradily. Not as if Bullet Seed would be any better, but they're save switching Acid Cradily into Forretress. What is happening? I am going to go for the Rock Tomb here. Rock Tomb onto the Cradily should potentiate a shield. They're not going to go for it, bringing in the Furret. Of course, they're going to go for the Rock Tomb here, so I couldn't really afford to bring in the Talonflame for the farm down, but Furret is going to get a pretty healthy 4 Sucker Punch farm down. Bring it back in the Tentacruel. I'm looking to reset that debuff from the Rock Tomb, going for my Trailblaze, and now this looks to be a CMP tie up against the Tentacruel, and indeed it is. Furret going to win that CMP tie, and now put up a shield up against the Scold. They fortunately don't debuff me again, and I'm going to be able to connect with this now. Neutral Swift. When I say neutral, I mean my attack is been lowered by 1 stage and has been boosted by 1 stage. They're going to bring in Toedscruel. They see the Talonflame. Game's over. GG's. Alright, and the next one is going to be Forretress, now up against a Shadow Drifblim. These leads, man, I don't know. Everything seems to resist Bug Bite right now. Maybe these people are ready for the Forretress lead. Nevertheless, I am still going to be able to hit with some pretty hard hitting damage. I tried to catch a Shadow Ball there, and they just didn't throw it. I tried that catch against a couple of Drifblim leads, and it just never worked out for me. But I'm going to be able to fire off a Trailblaze at the incoming Diggersby. And Diggersby being switched into Furret means that Furret should have a lot of play in this game. I'm going to no-shield a Scorching Sands here, and I'm going to be able to outpace to my next Trailblaze. I'm opting not to throw it because I know that my Furret has quite a lot of value in this game. So they go for the Fire Punch bait. That's perfectly fine, as I can go for the double Swifts here, and this is the CMP tie. If they shield, I will shield in return, because as we've seen, Furret definitely has a lot of value in this game. They are going to no-shield it, and in comes Azumarill, but Azumarill's going to have to take a boosted Trailblaze here. Trailblaze onto the Azumarill does about maybe 40%, and we're going to be able to connect with yet another Trailblaze. This would potentiate a knockout up against the Azu. They don't quite get knocked out, but they get Bug Breath down instead. In comes the Drifblim, but I can comfortably just shield this move and commit to going for a Rock Tomb here. Oh no, the Degen Sand Tomb, not again. Shmeaty, what are we doing? Going for the Sand Tomb. They shielded up, and now I think I might just be able to reach a Rock Tomb. Indeed, I'm able to do so. Forretress now going for the Rock Tomb. This will guarantee a shield from the Drifblim. If they didn't shield that, they were getting KO'd. The Bug Breath's adding up quite a lot. They have to throw a move, and this is likely to be an Icy Wind that will KO, but that's perfectly fine, as we just have a debuff on them. There's no way an Icy Wind's gonna KO, and the double Incinerate will take out the Drifblim. GG's. Alright, Forretress gonna be able to do something in this lead. Finally, it is going to be a Galarian Moltres. Galarian Moltres, of course, is very afraid of the Rock Tomb, but does have a pacing advantage. They'll make the Fly first. Am I going to shield the Fly? Am I not? I'm going to shield the Fly because future ones will do less damage. Looks like they're going to bring in Shadow Scizor, and if you're bringing in Shadow Scizor to a Forretress fight, you are losing the fight. I am going to fire off the Degen Tomb. Degen Tomb, I don't even know which one of these two moves is the Degen Tomb, but I build up just before they're able to make a Night Slash, and now fire off the Incinerate with the Talonflame, which just one-shots them. In comes a Quagsire, and unfortunately, I will have to fire off this move on alignment, but I think it's worth it, because otherwise I'd just get outpaced by the Quagsire. If they throw a move at my Talonflame anytime soon, I'm just going to have to let it go, because if I throw another Incinerate there, they will make another Aqua Tail. I'm going to let the Talonflame go down, and this looks like the most furtable Quagsire that has ever existed. Bringing in the Furret, they have no shields, and they are going to have to make a catch here, but before they do so, they're going to fire off a move at my Furret. A Stone Edge wouldn't even potentiate a knockout here, so I'm just not going to shield it. They go for the Aqua Tail, they catch my Trailblaze onto their Galarian Moltres. This isn't the worst thing in the world, though, because this gets them ever so slightly lower. It is a waste of energy, because that wasn't going to make this Rock Tomb knock out the Galarian Moltres any harder, but what it does do is give me the opportunity to bring in Forretress and outpace with the Rock Tomb, and now they can bring in the Quagsire here. They're going to go for a move, and I have a shield of my Furret, so no matter what they do, Furret is just in a beautiful position here to go for the Swift. This is another move that I can either decide to shield or not. We decide to shield it up in case it's a Stone Edge, it's an Aqua Tail, but the Sucker Punch that snuck will KO. what is this, the World Championships? It's like there's a Galarian Moltres on every lead. Nevertheless, Forretress, more than happy to play this out, as we've seen in the World Championships. They are going to go for the fly, as they do, of course, have the pacing advantage. Not a big problem for Forretress. We can just look to overfarm quite a lot. And before they're able to fire off their next fly, go for a Rock Tomb. What is the reaction from the Galarian Moltres? They are going to shield up. I'm looking to catch onto my Talonflame and no shield, as this is only going to be the fly. The fly still does a decent amount of damage, but it was debuffed. And now they're bringing in the Drapion. Drapion is going to fire off a move on 7 here, meaning that I have to just throw on alignment or let my Talonflame go. I opt to let my Talonflame go and go for a Sand Tomb onto their Drapion. They don't know my third, so they may think it has more value. Unfortunately, they don't do so. And I think at this point, this just has to be a full Furret sweep. Let's see, we're going to let the Forretress go down, and these resisted Sucker Punch have to do some damage here. They are going to be able to reach a further move. This is pretty difficult for me. I'm going to no-shield it, as future moves would do more damage. In comes the Gastrodon. Gastrodon into the Furret. What are we doing? We have an energy lead. Hello? Trailblaze onto the Gastrodon. Nearly all of the Gastrodon's HP, and I am going to be forced to shield this move up. This is still pretty tough, as they do have the Galarian Moltres with a little bit of HP remaining. The Drapion is still quite healthy. How are we going to be able to get away with this game? They're thinking about it quite heavily here. We go for the Trailblaze onto the Galarian Moltres. Maybe a potential lose con here. One Sucker Punch. Will it be enough to KO? It is not, but that is not Poison Sting range. In comes the Drapion. It gets farmed down to GG's. Alright, Forretress into Furret. Forretress resists all of the charge moves from the Furret, so not the worst position for us to be in, as we do have a double resist to Trailblaze, and I feel like they have to throw the Trailblaze in order to start boosting their Sucker Punch damage. Let's see what the Furret decides to do. They actually just go straight for the Swift, and I can look to lower their attack with a Rock Tomb, but Rock Tomb's such a good move that this puts them in a range where I can Bug Bite them down. They are going to just let the Rock Tomb go and fire off one further move. It's guaranteed to be the Swift, right? Because they wouldn't throw the double resisted move from this range. They really just want to neutralize my Forretress, and they have done a little bit of a good job doing so. I am going to bank this Forretress energy. No, I'm just going to throw it at the Jellicent. Old me making a liar out of current me, I guess. I am going to fire off the Rock Tomb there, and I think I can make a Sand Tomb. Now this puts them in a very precarious position. I, of course, am just going to put my Furret on this and hope for the best. They are now going to likely switch out immediately when they see the Furret. They don't even look to see the Furret, but there's a Talonflame on their Wigglytuff, and this trainer is in immense pain. Sure, you can go for the Swift here, why not? Your charms aren't doing any damage anyway. I'm going to be able to boost my Incinerate damage with the Flame Charge. I'm zero bubbling this because I want to get as many Incinerates through as possible. Now that they shield up the Flame Charge, I'm in an even better position. They can, of course, fire off another Swift here, but I can force a shield from the Jellicent, and I can force their energy as well. They're going to get KO'd by that Incinerate that just snuck, so I'm going for the fly. Of course, I don't have a shield, so I'm getting KO'd here, but what exactly is this Jellicent to do up against the Furret? They don't know either, so they're going to let go of the Jellicent. GG's to them. We are going to see Marowak up against our Forretress. I'm going to throw one Bug Bite, then switch into my Furret, hoping to throw off this opponent's timing, and indeed, I was indeed able to do so. They're going to fire off a Bone Club at my Furret, and they're going to bring in a Talonflame. There's a lot of toxic Marowak teams going around right now, so I was anticipating baiting out something else, but hey, this works for me. I'm going to be able to fire off 2 Swifts at this Talonflame, and Talonflame is not going to be a big fan of no-shielding 2 Swifts. They're going to actually shield up the second. I'm not able to make a third, and I'm going to get incinerated down. I'm bringing in my own Talonflame here. We need to make sure that we are going to be able to get this Incinerate down. This is going to be very close. They fire off the Brave Bird. That Incinerate goes through, and it KOs. Now, what is it they decide to bring in? It's going to be their Skeleturge, but their Skeleturge is a weird one. It's on Hex. I'm firing off the fly onto the Skeleturge. It does infinite damage onto them, and now I have to go for another Incinerate down here, I think. This is going to get really tough. I'm going to shield up. It is unfortunately a Torch Song bait, looking to get the farm down with the Forretress, but this isn't the worst situation I've ever been a part of, because The bug bites are adding up quite a lot. I should be able to live a further Bone Club, and I should be able to threaten with this Sand Tomb enough to either grab their shield or put them in a range where I can go for the Bug Breath down. Bug Breath is going to be able to KO the Marowak. They're going to bring back in the Skeletors, but they need a move for the Talon, so they get Bug Breath down twice. The double resist is not impactful enough. Another game, another Marowak lead. I always feel like this is going to be some degen stuff in back, so I am going to build up to their Bone Club, then switch into Furret, as I feel like up against those degen teams, Furret has like the least amount of play of the Pokemon that are on this team. Looks as if I'm correct in that assessment, as they are going to now bring in their Wigglytuff as their counter switch. I am not going to be able to do very much with my Furret here. I can get a couple Swifts off, and that's realistically going to be the most that I'm going to be able to do to the Wigglytuff. But now I have two Pokemon that can easily handle the Wigglytuff in the back. I haven't dropped the shield yet. I'm bringing in the Talonflame. I'm hoping to get 2 Incinerates here. They go for 3 Charms, and I think they could have just made a move there. I'm not entirely sure why they didn't go for it. In comes a Bastiodon. This is going to be a pretty tough game. We don't have switch advantage up against a team where we would really like to have switch advantage. They're going to bring back in their Marowak and fire off a move at my Forretress. I have to shield this. I need this Forretress to get rid of the Bastiodon. This, I think, has to be another shield. I'm going to have to shield this up. Forretress double shielding the Bone Club, doubling down on the Forretress, and now I should be able to grab a shield from this Bastiodon. Hold on. We're going for Sand Tomb number 1 up against the Forretress. I debatably should have baited with a Rock Tomb here. I'm going for Sand Tomb number 2. Future Sand Tomb's just going to do more damage, so I'm really hoping I'm able to pull a shield from this Bastiodon, and now I'm going for it. I banked the move, and now, are they going to be able to fully smack down? This is terrible. They reach a move, but they throw the Flamethrower? What? Talonflame hangs on with 1 HP, going for the Flame Charge, pulling the shield from the Bastiodon. In comes the Forretress with the loaded Sand Tomb. We had switch advantage 0 times that game, and we're still able to take the win. Alright, getting into the next one. I cannot believe that just happened. Forretress up against Jumpluff. Pretty nice lead for us, all things considered. They're going to be able to outpace us once again to an Acrobatics, similar to the Galarian Moltres matchup. I think we just shield the first here. I'm actually going to no shield, and they do go for the full send of the Acrobatics. Not the best for me, but I can build up to their next and fire off a Rock Tomb before they make an Acrobatics. That's going to only be an Aerial Ace, which Forretress is going to be able to hang on to with just about 1 HP, but hey, we lived it. That's all that matters. Fired off the Rock Tomb. They're going to shield it up, bringing in the Talonflame, hard switching the Talon. In comes Furret. Furret not going to be in for a very good time. We're firing off a Flame Charge at the Furret. What is the reaction from this trainer? They are going to no-shield it, but Furret is now in Incinerate downrange. This is very bad for our opponent. They're going to now fire off a Swift. Can they make another? They cannot. What are they going to bring in? This Talonflame is up so much energy, and we're in the even shield 1-to-1s. They're going to bring in their Shadow Kanto Marowak, and I'm going for yet another Flame Charge. Flame Charge up against the Shadow Kanto Marowak, grabs the shield, and Talonflame is about to sweep an entire endgame. We're going to shield up the Bone Club, most likely here at the very least. Yeah, Jumpluff is not quite yet close enough to a move. I wait the turn. They're able to fire off an Aerial Ace at my Talonflame here, but this game is over. We've got the full health Furret in the back, and they don't have enough resources to get to enough damage to KO the full health Furret. They can potentiate making another Acrobatics here, but this is a Jumpluff. It just doesn't do enough damage. They're forced to pivot out, and now, if they ever do pivot out, I just get to throw the Trailblaze at the Marowak, and they don't, so they get Sucker Punch down, and now I can throw the Trailblaze at the Marowak. Down goes the Marowak. GG's to them. In the next match, looks like it's Forretress up against Shadow Scizor again, and if you've been keeping up with the meta this season, you know this is a good lead for the Shadow Forretress. The regular Forretress is having a good time here. Nevertheless, they're going to fire off a Night Slash at my Forretress, and provided they don't get a Night Slash boost, I'm going to be in a good spot. They don't get the Night Slash boost, I can either go for the Rock Tomb, which would just threaten a KO, but we go for the Snipe with the Talonflame. Opponent did not react quick enough, and now they bring in their Quagsire. I'm going to overfarm here. In this case, you're going to see me overfarm. They throw on alignment. We have 100 energy on Talonflame. This is amazing for us. I'm going to go for the fly. The reason I continued to overfarm there was in case they messed up their timing just like that, and the fly is going to be able to pick up a shield. I'm going for yet another fly. Shadow fly into the Shadow Quagsire. Is it going to be enough? It's not going to be enough, as they are going to put up yet another shield here. Do I respect this, or do I not? I'm going to let go of my Talonflame here. Aqua Tail would not likely be enough to KO the regular Talonflame from there, but we have a Shadow Talonflame, so any water-type move, it could be, I don't know, a bubble from an Azu, we're probably getting KO'd. They're going to fire off a Stone Edge. Stone Edge is not going to be enough damage. They look to catch my Trailblaze, but we've got the back-to-back Swifts. 2 Swifts shouldn't be enough to KO their Furt, but what it will do is put them into a range where we can combo play with our Forretress. If you guys were keeping track, we did bank quite a lot of energy in that Scizor matchup earlier. So 1 Bug Breath, in comes the Forretress, we're firing off the Rock Tomb. This is going to be enough to pick up the knockout up against the Furret. We still have a shield, and their Quagsire is just going to get Bug Breath down, so they will concede the match. Uh-oh, it's a Shadow Kanto Marowak. Okay, well, we know how we want to play this out. We are going to actually immediately pivot into Furt. I guess I was testing out a couple ways to play this matchup out. We're actually going to be able to outpace and fire off a move on effectively 11 turns into their 12. They are going to no shield and now bring in their Forretress. This is 100% a very common, very toxic team of Shadow Kanto Marowak, Forretress safe switch, and Bastiodon as the closer. They are going to fire off a move up against my Furt. I don't have to shield this, and we get to see what their cheapest move is. It is going to be the Rock Tomb. I'm bringing in my Talonflame here, and once again, another team with a Bastiodon that we don't have a switch advantage up against. I am going to have to pivot into my Forretress, and now I'm looking to keep energy. I do not want to throw up against that Bastiodon. I can't afford to. The win con in this game is keeping the Forretress healthy. They have to throw multiple moves at the Forretress. We're going for the Sand Tomb. Sand Tomb is going to grab the shield from the Shadow Kanto Marowak. And now, are we going to shield up here? This is a tough call to make. I am going to no shield. It's a Bone Club. Does do quite a lot of damage, but we're able to get the full Bug Breath down. And now, back in comes the Bastiodon. Bastiodon should be dropping a shield here momentarily. Let's see, we get to Sand Tomb number 1. Sand Tomb number 1 grabs the shield. Sand Tomb number 2 is going to lower the defense an additional stage. And this is all adding up very, very well for us as we are... Oh no, if they're able to make a move, this is going to be very, very tough. Okay, Stone Edge onto the Talonflame. We're going for 1 further Incinerate. Flame Charge onto the Bastiodon. Our health is getting absolutely deleted. Flame Charge connects. Can Basti make a move? Somehow Talon keeps beating Bastiodon. GG's to this trainer. We've now made it to the final game of the video, Forretress up against an Azumarill. Provided Azumarill is not running Hydro Pump, which very few are, this is a pretty decent match for the Forretress as all of their energy is going to be resisted. I'm going to fire off a Rock Tomb here, basically incentivizing the Azu to switch out, and they are going to do so right as they are able to get our energy. They're going to fire off a Fire Punch, but the perfectly timed catch onto the Talonflame means that we're going to sneak and Incinerate, 20 free energy, and now, for some of these games, for some reason I had Brave Bird, and others, for some reason, I still don't know, I had Flame Charge. I think Flame Charge is better, but I guess we're trying out both in this video. We are going to be able to make the back-to-back flies here. I'm going to undercharge this as I want a little bit more farm, and I think it's just a little bit too greedy. Unfortunately, I don't get the undercharge correct, and they are going to be able to force my final shield with a Scorching Sands. I'm going to fire off a Sand Tomb up against the Azumarill. Azumarill is not going to shield and immediately switch out into their Drapion. However, Drapion doesn't do the best up against Forretress even when it does have a shield advantage. Crunch is not going to get me anywhere near Poison Sting downrange, so I'm going to fire off Rock Tomb. I need to start getting this Drapion basically to be completely useless, and now I am looking to get as much Bug Breath damage as possible. Opponent looking to get as much energy as possible out of this matchup. They go for the Aqua Tail. That's going to KO. In comes the Talonflame. We've got the back-to-back flies loaded. Fly number 1 onto the Drapion. What is the response from our opposing trainer? They're going to let it go, bringing in the Azumarill, but Azumarill has now sealed its fate. Fly is going to demand a shield from them, and now we just bring in our Furret, and Furret should be able to get to a Trailblaze that should just be able to win us this game. They go for the Play Rough. I'm going to really need to make this Trailblaze. They're going to be able to make yet another Play Rough. This is okay. We know that we aren't going to get KO'd here. Play Rough does a lot, but the Trailblaze is about to connect. Can this be enough to KO the Azu? I don't believe just yet. They are going to hang on very low HP, and Burt, oh no, are they going to be able to make a last second move? Yes, they are, and unfortunately Talonflame not going to be able to clutch up every single game, but did perform very, very well. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. Shadow Talonflame is an absolute menace, and I had a ton of fun with it. Those games where we were able to clutch up versus those Bastiodons, I have to say that's not possible with a regular Talonflame. You're just getting farmed by the Basti, but the Shadow Talonflame, specifically on Flame Charge, able to put it to work, even against Basties. It's not going to be the most consistent thing ever. You're not going to flip every Bastiodon ever. Let's be completely honest with ourselves. But the fact that I was able to do it even twice in one video, I don't know. I gotta say, if you don't have a Shadow Talonflame already built for the Great League, I highly recommend it. Probably one of the best Shadow Pokemon you can obtain from the Shadow rotation, outside of Giratina, which we know is pretty much meta in the Open Great League. And with them giving Dragon Breath a buff for some reason next season, I don't know, but let's go ahead and see what next season shapes out to be. I'll probably try to make a video about the move updates sometime in the near future, because I know nobody wants to see Catch Cup content, and I know I have some Master League enthusiasts eagerly waiting for the next Moist Man video, but I don't know. Let's go ahead and see where the week takes us, and I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you have, I've been Shmeaty. Thanks once again so much for watching. I hope to see you all again next time, and have a good rest of your day. See ya.